Welcome to the hardest support character in Smite. To get us started, let's go over her laning phase. Yemoja has a pretty decent early game. She can outpressure most lanes while still providing decent util. However, her leveling order can be a bit tricky, so let's get into that. By level 3, you should have 2 points into her 1 and 1 point into her 3. You want to skip over the 2 because the sustain it's giving early isn't a whole lot for the amount of Omi it's costing you. You're only getting about 7 base Omi early, and for her 2, it's consuming 3 Omi per stack, which means that you can only use your 2 twice, and you can't even use your 1 afterwards. You get way more value out of just spamming your 1, which provides slows, stuns, and decent damage. Sometimes you also obviously want to use your 3 to help set up for your 1, or just to get you and your ally out of sticky situations. Yemoja also has a pretty good buff secure, so I would definitely recommend invading and challenging camps, plus you have your 3 to get you out if you find yourself in any trouble. Finally, make sure you're constantly autoing your ally to heal them. You might see ticks of 1 or 2, but all of that adds up, especially combined with benevolence. It goes a long way for sustain. Next, let's get into Yemoja's map play. With the way I personally like to play the map, and this goes for any support I'm playing, not just Yemoja, I like to hover around duo mid lane with very minimal soul lane rotations. Reason being is because most of the contestable early game map farm is going to center around your duo mid jungle, with beacon spawning in at 12 minutes. Now, if there's a big blue or red buff invade going on, then I'll try to be there at that, but then again, it's not going to be my number 1 priority. In terms of Yemoja though, you want to play to her strengths. Just as you would look for a no-beast jungler with Ares, you want to look for characters you can trap in with your ult. So if you're playing against characters that can't get over walls, maybe in your best interest to abuse that. Look for fights where you know the enemy is going to be at. And at what better place than neutral camp farm? I'm talking your mid-harpies, your gold furies, your shield camps, your pyromancers, all that jazz. Make sure you're going to be there on those timers. You want those kills to lead to some sort of extra farm. After all, Yemoja's ult is on a pretty big cooldown, so you can't throw it out at will. Now I want to go over how to teamfight with Yemoja. First thing to note is that there are multiple ways to play her. Some people like spamming her 1, others like spam healing, and some like doing a little bit of both. I personally like to spam her heal and her 3. I hardly ever use her 1 late game. I'll use it here and there if I see a really good stun opportunity, but I like to reserve my Omi mainly for her 2 and her 3. I do this because you have very limited Omi resources at any given time, so you can spam 3 heals with 1 Omi left over because you get a total of 10 Omi at max range. Now if you combine stuns or slows with her heals, now you're healing a lot less in fights. So whenever my allies get engaged on, I think spamming heals to keep them alive and healthy goes a much longer way than say a 1-second stun that I could easily miss or a slow. I also like to use Yemoja's 3 a lot for engaging, peeling, or even just retreating from a fight. Now Yemoja's 3 also costs 3 Omi, so I like to be a little bit more conservative with it over the heal. For the way I play, it's all about balancing your 2 and 3 usage with the amount of Omi you have and the regen you have. One reason I also like the 3 for peel over the 1 is because it's a potential zoning tool for your allies and it gives them protections and movement speed if they go through it. A lot of people actually don't know that. That's the really cool thing about Yemoja, is that she gets to micro her teammates and the enemies as she sees fit. In my opinion, she's actually the greatest control character in Smite. And this leads me to her ult. Yemoja's ult allows her to separate and control the teamfight at will. You can engage with it to start the fight, or you can even just use it as peel if the enemies have a lot of leaps. The cool thing is, even if Yemoja's ult gets phantom shelled, it's still a big separator and zoning tool. It's hard for the enemies to look over it, the carries don't want to go through it, and it blocks a majority of abilities. This creates a really big advantage for your team in the fight. Yemoja also has a really good chase with her 3, and of course she has really good disengage if the fight just isn't going away. There's a reason why she's remained a top support pick since her release. She pretty much has everything. Lastly, I just wanted to go over some tips, tricks, and hidden features with Yemoja. Some of these things might seem a bit obvious and some others hopefully not. So the first thing is, and by the way, this is actually a really cool feature that is not listed in her ult description, but Yemoja actually reveals invis characters inside of it. So for example, if an Izanami dashes and you catch her in Yemoja, it will actually reveal her to everyone on your team. Another cool feature is that you can actually hoop out of Odin cage. You have to place the hoop right on the edge of the cage, but it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Alright, enough about hidden features, let's get into some tips and tricks. To start us off, starting a fight with Yemoja can happen in many different ways, but one very common way is to hoop an enemy back in place and ult around them, trapping them inside of it. This works very well for getting an engage off, but beware, if you put the edge of the ult too close, sometimes they'll actually ride the wave right out of it. Yemoja hoops are also really nice for getting out of situations like Ganesh ult, but one thing they're really good for is creating walls to help trap people in your ult. If you can't get a full wall-to-wall ult, then just create your own wall. Another thing I like to do is to hoop my minions. Yes, they can take the hoop, and they also get increased movement speed afterwards. I do this to help send them down the lane quicker, and even when they're at tower line to help get them into the Phoenix. Speaking of that, in the early game, try to hoop your minions into their tower if you have the pressure to help lower their gold farm. You can also use hoops as a form of cleanse. No hoops don't actually cleanse CC, but you can move your teammates to a different position if say they get stunned or any other form of hard CC, making it harder to hit them. Next, something that might seem a bit more obvious, but try to hoop off corridors. Treat it like a Ymir wall to be able to either keep people in or keep people out. As for Yemo's build, support builds usually are game dependent, but one thing I love on Yemo's cooldown. So you often see me go Benevolence because I love either going into Compassion or Heroism late game, mainly Compassion though. But after that, I like to go Prophetic Cloak and Lotus Sickle almost every single game. Prophetic Cloak, definitely. Lotus Sickle here and there, but Prophetic and Lotus Sickle together give you 20% CDR, so it's awesome. And from there, it's really just game dependent, but I like to factor in other CDR items as well, such as Pridwin, Magi's, or Spirit Robe. All are good options on her. Now for the leveling order, as mentioned before, 2 points into the 1 and 1 point into the 3. After that, I like to level the 2, then the ult. Then from there, I like to max the 2 and max the 3, since those are the abilities I like to use the most. Maxing the 2 just allows you to get increased HP and shielding to your allies, and then maxing the 3 after that gives you guys increased movement speed and also increased protections as well. So that's the leveling order that I like to use on Yemoja. So this is pretty much all I want to go over with Yemo. To summarize everything, Yemo is the best control character in Smite. She's got a bit of everything you could ever want from a support. She's got damage, sustain, CC, she's got zoning tools, and even more than that. She's a very good peeler by sustaining her allies and providing a little bit of CC. She's also a very good initiator by starting fights with her Riptide, her 1, or even her ults. Because of all the spam she has, I like to build CDR on her to increase her Omi regen rate as well. So that's going to wrap up this video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this guide taught you a lot about Yemoja. I hope you learned some new things and were able to reinforce some things that you already knew. If there are any cool features like being able to reveal invis characters in her ult that you know of and I didn't cover, please post them in the comment section below. I love learning new things about these characters. And also check out my stream if you guys enjoyed the video. I have it in the description below. I stream Smite just about every day. I'm a support mid as well. So stop by and say hi. Alright guys, until next time. See ya.